Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and today we're going to be talking about how to play Trinity in Warframe. So, funny story about Trinity players, like just random Trinity players in general. Whenever you're going into like a public lobby, or let's say for example a public Eidolon hunt or something, the number one thing that comes up in conversation whenever I'm talking to just a random Trinity player about their build is I'm using a balanced build. Right? And that gives me PTSD back to whenever I used to play The Division whenever it first came out, right? Because if you weren't around for The Division whenever it first came out, The Division was extremely unbalanced, right? There was two things that were very predominantly meta, two skills, Pulse and also Smart Cover, right? So the reason that they were so broken is because the bonuses that they gave, the damage resistance, the critical buff, critical chance buff, all that stuff, it was extremely broken, and it scaled extremely well with the electronic stat, right? So in the Division, you could spec out your gear, right? So every single piece of gear, you could spec it out into electronics, so you would have a higher electronic stat, and because you had a higher electronic stat, then the buffs that you would get, the damage resistance, the critical chance buff, and the critical damage buff would be a lot higher. And I had this one friend who, funnily enough, loves playing Trinity and Warframe whenever he does play it. I had this one friend who insisted in running a balanced build of fucking electronics, toughness, and firepower. And it drove me insane because we missed out on so much Phoenix tokens whenever the Division came out because he wanted to just run a balanced build. And I was like, dude, it's not worth it. Just run firepower. Just run electronics. It annoyed the hell out of me. Then he plays Warframe and he does the exact same thing. He runs a balanced build on Trinity. But the thing is, running a balanced build on Trinity is really bad because it's counterproductive, right? With Energy Vampire, which is your second ability, the one that gives you energy back and your team energy back, you need to be building that for power range, power strength, negative duration, right? With Blessing, you need to have positive duration and only a certain amount of power strength. So building a balanced build, it makes a messy looking build, right? It doesn't really work out. So whenever I get into a lobby with a Trinity saying that they're using a balanced build, it just kind of reminds me of the Division. And it's, if you were around for the Division whenever it first came out, those aren't happy memories, but that's besides the point. We're here to learn about how to play Trinity. So what I'm trying to say is it's better with Trinity to specialize for either Energy Vampire or Blessing because it just makes both of the abilities more efficient, more effective. So you would use Energy Vampire Trinity in the likes of an endurance run, in a survival, or a defense. And the reason for that being is because every single Warframe that you're playing with in your squad is going to need energy to use their abilities. That's pretty straightforward. If you don't understand that, then mind blown. That's crazy. Of course, Warframe doesn't really do a good job at explaining things, so I maybe wouldn't blame you, but you need energy to use your abilities, right? And Trinity can definitely give you and your entire squad a lot of energy. So if I were to, like, you know, let's spawn in a couple of heavy gunners. If I were to use Well of Life to waste my energy here, I'm using a what's it called, by the way? I'm using an Energy Vampire build. If I go ahead and I get myself down to around, say, 50 odd energy, I'll be able to get all of my energy back within one cast of Energy Vampire, right? Now, the bad thing about this, because I'm not using Prime Flow, I could probably throw Flow or Prime Flow on to demonstrate, but the thing is, you can only see how much energy you're getting back based off how much energy you can kind of carry, right? So whenever I go to cast my energy Vampire on this guy right here, you see at the bottom we only get 213 energy back. But if I was playing a frame that had a much larger energy pool, then I would be getting a lot more back from that single cast. And the reason that we're getting a lot is because every single pulse that comes from an enemy whenever you use Energy Vampire on it is going to give you a pretty decent amount of energy, right? So this is why you mod for negative duration, because you want those pulses to come out super fast. You're always going to get those, I think it was 4 pulses that came out of the energy, or that enemy. So let's go ahead and count. 1, 2, 3, Was it 4 or 5? I can't tell. 4 or 5 pulses. Doesn't really matter that much. You get a lot of energy per pulse anyway. You mod for negative duration to make those pulses come out faster, and then you mod for as much power strength as possible to get as much energy as possible per pulse, right? So this is why it's counterproductive to try to make a balanced build, because if you are going for a balanced build where you need to have duration for your blessing, then it severely hinders your ability to restore energy with Energy Vampire, because you have to wait for those pulses to come out of the energy, right? And based off how much duration you have on will lengthen the time between those pulses, right? And you also only need to have 150% power strength on a blessing build as well for that 75% damage reduction. So it's kind of like, what's the point, right? So it's just a counterproductive build. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at our Energy Vampire build, shall we? So there's a multitude of different ways that you can actually make an Energy Vampire build, but overextend it, Fleeing Expertise, Transient Fortitude, these are all must-haves in my opinion. Overextend it is on there for the range, same with Stretch and Augur Reach. Augur Reach you don't need. Augur Reach you can replace for the likes of the Augment Vampire Leech, right, which is going to give over shields, but because I'm using this in an endgame-like environment, I don't tend to use that because shields don't really mean that much. Same with Vitality if you are going deep into endgame. You don't necessarily need it, so you can replace that for something like Quick Thinking, for example. So then, like, you have that sort of leeway there, but chances are you are still going to get one shot. So you just have an extra D polarity on there to kind of do whatever you want. But Blind Rage, I would also say, is definitely a must-have, because the idea is to get your power strength as high as possible. So we're at 253% with Umbral Intensify, Transient Fortitude, Power Drift, and Blind Rage on here. So I could go ahead and remove Augur Reach for Augur Secrets, but because we're already getting a lot of energy per pulse, then, I mean, it's kind of down to the player at that point, right? So this one slot down the bottom right here where I'm throwing on Augur mods, it's down to you what you use, just don't use Augur Message. If you use Augur Message, you're shooting yourself in the foot on an EV build at least, right? So range is important, overextended stretch, definitely important. Power strength mods, super important. Fleeing Expertise, negative duration, super important. So Transient Fortitude, Fleeing Expertise, and overextended, I would say, are 3 must-haves on this build. Vitality, you could swap off. Augur Reach, you could swap off for Augur Secrets. Stretch, I would recommend having this on. Aura mod, I recommend having Cruise Projection if you want to take this into an endgame environment. And then for your Arcanes, Guardian and Grace, just to keep myself alive, because keep in mind, even though I don't have, you know, duration on this build, Blessing still works as an instant 100% heal, right? I could take damage. Let's go ahead and kill all these guys. I could take damage from, let's say, a level 60, right? Level 60 Heavy Gunner. Spawn all of these guys in. Unpause them. Okay. We can take damage from this guy. If they can shoot me. Health damage. And then I can use my fourth ability. You hurt me already? Thank you. I still get all of my health back, even though, you know, we don't have duration, right? You don't need that duration for Blessing to work in the form of its heal, right? So you can still use Blessing to heal yourself. There's no reason not to. Of course, it's going to take a lot of energy because you're using Blind Rage, but it's only 95, and you can get that back with one cast off Energy Vampire, and as long as you have 48 energy, you can cast that, right? I'm not using Flow on here because, I mean, you don't necessarily need it because you can just get your energy back like that. You have Zeneric, you've got energy pads, and obviously your second ability as well. So it's debatable on whether or not you need it. I could throw Flow on here in place of Augur Reach, like a regular Flow, not a Prime Flow. I need the format again for a Prime Flow. Just to kind of demonstrate that you get a lot more energy back per one cast off Energy Vampire, right? So if we go ahead and we pause the AI, and then we get ourselves back down to that 58 energy, I think it was, that I had, just by casting Well of Life on these guys. There you go. And then we go ahead and we cast our Energy Vampire. That's 252 energy from one cast, right? 232. So it's kind of going to vary, depending on, I think, the level of the enemy that you hit, because I think the level of the enemy actually determines how much energy you get. Not too sure. But that being said, there's a really, really cool mechanic with Energy Vampire that makes it like a really, really damaging ability, right? So look at that guy's health. half of his health is gone within one cast. The damage scaling on Energy Vampire is absolutely phenomenal. So if you're doing an endurance run with the likes of a Saren, chances are, if you're playing the Trinity, you're going to out-damage the Saren at a point. You're going to have more damage dealt than the Saren just because of how crazy Energy Vampire scaling is, right? So, just to demonstrate even further that is the case, we'll make these guys level 160, and no, they're not getting, I'm not getting like any damage bonus from them being paused. That's very silly, Billy. That only applies to melee, but let's go ahead and see. So, same thing applies, right? Half his health, one cast, and then it kind of continually gets smaller and smaller because it's taking how much health the enemy has and then deducting it based off I think percentage. So, you know, either way, doesn't matter the math behind it. These guys die fast, and it doesn't matter what level they are. They die fast, and they will continue to die fast. This makes Trinity essential in an endurance run whenever it comes to taking out bombards, ancient healers, all that stuff. Any VIP enemy, your Trinity will be casting Energy Vampire, negative duration, as much strength as possible to get those things dead ASAP. That is why you need an Energy Vampire Trin. Mod it specifically like this. And if you don't have that in an endurance run, shooting yourself in the foot. Honestly. So, you know, try this out. Try this build. 277% power strength. A lot of energy per cast. Like, if you're playing in a grip, in a void defense, Saren, Frost, Loki, Trinity, this would be the build that I would use personally. Maybe taking off Vitality for something else. I don't know what I could throw on in that D slot, but, you know, it's really, really down to you, what you want to use. But yeah, that is Energy Vampire Trinity. Hope you understand kind of how that build works in general. Negative duration, as much power strength as possible, decent amount of range, so of course it affects your teammates, and then efficiency, you only really need that because that negative duration on fleet and expertise, right? So, cool, thumbs up, awesome. Now we're moving on to the Blessing build. This one annoys me because I do so many Eidolon hunts, and again, this goes back to the balance build thing, and it's like, oh my god, dude, you need to have duration on here. Duration is essential, and you need to have at least 150% power strength, and then that's it. Efficiency is nice, sure, if you're, you know, making a casual, what's it called, Blessing build, but in Eidolon hunts, we prefer having like as much duration as possible so you can hit your Blessing so your teammates and your lures don't die, making sure that they are, you know, affected by it. Of course, they are within affinity range. So affinity range, I think off the top of my head, is 50 meters. So 50 meters, they have to be 50 meters close to you, and then they're going to be affected by blessings. So that scales with affinity range. So you don't need the mod for range on it, which is a common misconception that I see a lot. You need to have at least 150% power strength to get that 75% damage reduction. And yes, like if you're for some reason running a build that has 72% damage reduction on your blessing, that 3% does matter. Like, of course it matters, guys. That's a big difference, okay? Especially whenever it comes to like super damaging abilities, like a couple of percent means a lot. I see a lot of people running, for some reason in my Eidolon hunts, 72% blessing build, and I don't know where they get it from. A guy tried to say it was one of my builds, and I was like, no, it's not. It's not one of my builds. I literally went through all of my Trinity videos. I was like, no, I don't think I've ever done this. Maybe years ago, but in a really old build where blessing wasn't changed, but nah. So, yeah, Trinity, blessing build, duration, 150 strength. Rest is down to you. Have a little bit more efficiency on there if you want, but you do not need range. 110% do not need range. This is what I use in Eidolons. You can change out the aura for the enemy radar, so you can attract the bombs a little bit faster. And obviously, Coaction Drift, you can replace that if you want as well for something different. It's down to you. Maybe there's another Exos mod in there somewhere that you want to throw on. Really down to you, but it's a pretty straightforward build. So you can still use Energy Vampire, don't get me wrong, but let me show you guys the absolute difference in how long it takes. So 27-second duration. So look at this. Look how long it's going to take. for all these pulses. So we only got 1 pulse. There's a second pulse, and we get significantly less energy. Of course, that's because we have less power strength on. But like, look how slow it's been. Look how little health damage we're dealing to this guy. It's blah. Very blah. So it takes ages. So specialize, guys. Specialize. Choose one or the other. Choose Energy Vampire or choose Blessing. Stick to it. Use Energy Vampire in endurance runs. Use Blessing in, what's it called? Idle hunts. And that's what I recommend. You can also, like, maybe go out of your way to make Umbral versions of either of these builds, but you need 2 separate Trinities because, like I said, they're modded differently, right? So, bleh. Trinity. I'm not annoyed, I swear. I'm not. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I don't want a mod for electronics, Flynn. If I have higher firepower, then my gun's dealing more damage, so that bonus will be higher if I have a balance, right? If I have a 4 times multiplier and my gun's dealing more damage, then sure, why would I need a 15 times multiplier, Flynn? Bleh! Bleh! That's my Division 2 experience, my dudes. I don't need to have 95% damage reduction, guys. See of me. See of me. I hope the same doesn't happen in Division 2. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead, hit that like button below. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. That was fast. Holy shit. Bye, guys.